All right, I am unmuted. Hello, everyone. My name is Juniper Yun. I am the program associate at the Transgender District of SF, and I'm here today with two beautiful folks, also in San Francisco. We're here with Christian Washington, who is a Black non-binary culinary artist and creative that is one of the models for our Know Our Place campaign. And then, of course, my partner in crime, Jupiter Peraza, who is a Mexicana community advocate and also a program associate at the Transgender District. And again, both of them modeled for the campaign that I curated with the Trans District in San Francisco. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to be having a talk regarding the International Transgender Day of Visibility, which is an annual event occurring on March 31st, dedicated to celebrating our people and raising the awareness around the discrimination our people face in our society and in the world. So yeah, I'm really excited to be joined by two really phenomenal folk. And I think we'll have a beautiful conversation about just, where we're at within the ideas of trans and gender informing and intersex rights and how that intersects with race and class and things of that nature. So again, thank you everyone for joining today. To give you a little bit of a primer, the Transgender District is based in 6 blocks of the Tenderloin. It is the first legally recognized locale dedicated to transgender, gender nonconforming, and intersex communities. And then Know Our Place is a public awareness campaign. If you haven't checked it out yet, I suggest you do it, which promotes historic placemaking and trans resilience through public and social streams. So we have billboards, we have bar posters, we're soon to have street banners, things of that nature. And then of course our launch website, www.knowourplace.com, is actively is up now and can be explored freely. So I'll keep that banner up so folks can peep it for the next couple minutes. But without further ado, I would love for both Jupiter and Christian to kind of just say hello. I'm gonna unmute your mic. Oh, you have to unmute yourselves actually. So sorry about that. One of y'all is gonna have to lean over. Beautiful. And go ahead. I would love for you both just to share perhaps a time that you felt seen. I want to talk a little bit about visibility and what that means today. So just in your personal experience, can you describe, Christian and Jupiter, a time that you felt seen in your identity?
Hi everyone, my name is Jupiter. I am one of the associates at the Transgender District. I am so happy to be here with you all today to talk about our incredible public awareness campaign, Know Our Place, and to answer Juniper's question about a time that I have felt seen. For me, it's very important to be seen and validated in the workplace. I am a workaholic. I love to dedicate all my focus and all my energy into my work, and being able to work in a work environment that uplifts me and encourages me and supports me. It's something that I've always wanted throughout my entire professional career. A time that I have felt seen has been in the job that I currently hold and also in the job that I hold prior to where I am now. It really empowered me and supported me to be the best that I could ever be, which I think has been great for my work development. And I wouldn't exchange it for anything else.
Beautiful, thank you, Jupiter. Christian, I would love to hear from you. What is a time that you felt seen?
For me, I think a lot of the being seen and validation comes through how I construct my appearance and the looks that I turn and everything else. And I feel like a moment that I always cherish is like when I'm like at the hair store in the wig section. Look, and it's like it also always feels a very vulnerable place. But it's like, let me take this one off and put this one on. Like it just feels very it's a very vulnerable space. Like everyone's kind of like, you know, looking for things to adorn themselves with. And like I always feel seen when like another woman in the store sees me and is like, I like that one, but maybe get the blonde one, or like we start like engaging with each other and being like, maybe that one, but that brown, like, it washes you out, maybe get something a little darker, like whenever it's just like, and then she's like, well, what do you think about this for me? And like having those conversations like in the aisle of like the hair store with like just like other women, like us validating each other, like validating like our femininity, and like, yeah, I don't know. Like that's a space that I always feel very validated in.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like adornment, like you said, is a place where our community really puts itself in to like kind of make people see us. I think that there is a lot happening these days where we are celebrating ourselves and like we kind of fluff ourselves up despite the fact that like, you know, folks might be like looking down their noses at us. So I really appreciate you both sharing, both in the professional environment and in the personal life, that like there are moments that we as people can really shine. I wanted to also just loop back about, you know, the International Day of Trans Visibility and kind of what that means as a day for our culture, and perhaps explore your feelings regarding visibility. So one question I have are, what are your feelings about transgender and gender nonconforming visibility in this era and in this time in 2021? And either of you can take it, or one of you can just answer. It's really up to y'all.
You know, I think visibility is so important. I grew up in a city and in a household where I wasn't really exposed to trans people, which led to a lot of confusion, which led to a lot of hostility as to how I felt and who I was. And you know, it wasn't until I came into contact with another trans person that I really began to understand the feelings that I was, you know, that I felt. That I began to understand who I was and what my purpose was, and who I was meant to be. And I definitely think that it's very important to be visible now, you know, especially with how prevalent social media is. I really believe that being vulnerable and showcasing our beauty and who we are, you know, can really help another child or another person see who they are and understand their feelings as well. But I also think that it's very important for that visibility to come from us, from transgender people. You know, I wouldn't say that, oh, you know, it's okay to be visible from the perspective of a cisgender heteronormative person. Which is something that I would like to discuss later on this panel, about how, you know, society portrays us. I really think it's important for us to portray ourselves beautifully as who we are, and I just love what we did with the public awareness campaign. I went to go see the billboard yesterday in all its glory in person on 5th and Harrison. If you're nearby, please go. It is gorgeous. And you know, it really made me emotional because there's this piece of art displayed for the public that was put together by trans people, for trans people, with trans people. And I definitely saw it as just, you know, a beautiful culmination and a curation of all the beauty that we are. And I thought it was definitely very important. And I definitely believe it sets us off to have more of that in the future.
Thanks so much, Jupiter. And Christian, do you have any thoughts regarding trans and gender nonconforming visibility?
Yeah, sure. I, along the same vein, grew up um, in a very, I had just like a very sheltered existence from at least queerness and all of that stuff. And I think that having more visibility so that, because like, I feel like as queers and like, because we don't necessarily start to, we have to move past accepting ourselves and like that thing and that piece. And it's kind of like, we just like kind of lose 10 years of adolescence because we're having to like catch up, and it's like you're 20, that's like you're actually like having that first relationship that's like you can hold hands in public, and and like I feel like if that visibility was there, we could kind of move forward a lot more quickly in our own lives. And I think that the visibility would help stop like violence that's happening. It's like if people were to hear our stories and understand us, I think that there would be less of a weird place of like we're in the shadows and this and that. It's like we should be out in the sun, and like that would help people to understand that it's like we're actually just people like you. Like I go to the restroom to use the restroom, and like and I feel like that visibility and that kind of just like understanding and mutual respect that can come from that would be very beneficial to our lives, our happiness, our safety, our joy, and our comfort. And I think that's what the like visibility is, like the foundation block of that house. Yeah.
Love that. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that similarly, I think we all came from very different, like, almost like conservative backgrounds, I want to like touch on the fact that like we're all, like everyone in the campaign identifies as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, or BIPOC. And something for me regarding visibility, I want to add like maybe a counterpoint. I think that part of the intention of me in creating this campaign alongside Aria, who, if y'all don't know, those watching, Aria is our fearless leader, our executive director at the Trans District. And we really talked a long time about visibility and how it is beautiful. Like, there's these shows like Pose, like Euphoria, that are like putting trans people for the first time, or not maybe the first time, but in a way that is like, different than in the past, to the forefront of people's like, streams, like on Netflix, on HBO, and telling very humanizing stories and narratives. But I also think that there comes with visibility this understanding that what needs to follow is a fight for actual civil protections. And I think that with visibility, it's a starting point, but it shouldn't be our end goal. Because I think that frequently in communities that are marginalized, visibility is kind of the first step towards like, being humanized. But until there are legislative conversations about like, how can we right the wrongs against our communities, it kind of becomes, it can become exploitative, as Jupiter pointed out, regarding like if trans people aren't telling our own stories, if gender nonconforming people aren't telling our own stories, if intersex people aren't telling our own stories, we're not getting the benefits from it that others get. So I think that's sort of where I want to hop off and actually talk a little bit about race. I know that this is a pretty heavy topic for some, but as I stated, all the models in our Know Our Place campaign are BIPOC identified. And I want to talk a little bit like, how has your heritage, Jupiter and Christian, informed your experience as a TGNC person? And I think that is a topic that it can be heavy. So share as much or as little or nothing if you like. I'm very curious as I created this campaign, not as a way to exclude trans people who aren't BIPOC identified, but to really uplift folks who are already marginalized by society. What has your heritage informed regarding your experiences?
As I stated in the campaign, and it's something that I always state, it's just that I am proudly Mexican. and I am proudly undocumented. But to first talk about being Mexican, part of that seclusion that I felt as I was growing up was because of of the traditional beliefs and principles of Mexican culture. I mean, it's very obvious that Mexican culture is a culture that is very much attached to macho culture. For example, I don't know if you all know, but right now in Mexico, there's the femicidio, which is this this genocide against women, and women are being killed at alarming rates without any justice or any repercussions to the men that have committed these horrible crimes. And that's just one example of how Mexican culture sort of like looks down on women. And this also gives you an idea as to how Mexican culture thinks of trans people. Growing up, this journey of where I am now, I first didn't come out as trans. I've come out as many things, and one of the first things was gay. Surprisingly enough, it was not as difficult to come out as gay as it is to come out trans. And sort of that struggle and that hurdle definitely did inform me who I am right now. I was very tenacious in myself, in my identity. I was very close to my family, and luckily I am still now. But there was a time where I was ready to let go of my family and my parents and my extended family, just because I wanted to be myself and because I loved my identity more than having to subject myself to hate and tension from my family members. And also, being undocumented as well and being a first generation individual to go to college and attend school, and there's definitely this pressure, and there is this like notion that we must at all costs leave our mark in who we are and attaining something that we couldn't attain in our home country. So those two ideas definitely did inform who I am now. But luckily, because I was so vicious in defending my identity and who I was, I would probably say that I just love the person that I've become. I love the woman that I've become. I am unapologetic to anyone, and even my family members, about who I am. And I would never trade that to be someone that I am not, and someone that I never want to be. So those two aspects from my heritage has definitely informed who I am today, and they have informed the woman who I have become, and that is a woman that I am very proud to be.
Thank you so much, Jupiter.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all.
I love laughter. I feel like it's one of those things where we're so often having these serious conversations, and like being able to, have platform to not only just speak our truths, but like be in community with each other and laugh about it, because we all know what it's like. We all know what it's like to have that concern and pressure. But I want to open the table for Christian, if you'd like to share. And then if you wouldn't, we can move on to the next question. It's really up to you.
Oh, it's fine. For me, I think that my heritage and my background definitely has informed who I am, and a very when I came out to my mother originally, it was her response was, "I don't want your life to be harder than it's already going to be." And it was just and I think having to be strong and stand up in the face of sneers, because I grew up in like a suburb in North Houston. Like we were, like I definitely went to a predominantly white school, like growing up, and like having to like be in classes that like I'm like the black face in it, and having to deal with those things, and like I think that kind of like tempered the steel that was like me, I guess. And I think having that strength very early and like having to be spoken to about, well, you can't be going and doing everything that the like white kids doing. Like you have to realize how your teacher's gonna perceive you. Like you like having all those things kind of like instilled in me very young because of my blackness, I think gave me the strength to be able to live unapologetically in my queer and transness. And yeah, it kind of just is something that's like, oh yeah, like I gotta be strong today, and it's just Tuesday, you know, or whatever day it is. What day is it? Wednesday? No, it's Monday.
It's Monday. I mean, for a second, I was like, is today Wednesday?
So like, I don't know, I think the strength and resolve that I have to be courageous in my transness comes from the courage it takes to also be Black in America.
Thank you so much for that. I think that what really was profound to me is the fact that you brought up how your mother said, I don't want your life harder than it already has to be. And I think that's sort of the intention of where I was at when I was thinking about the campaign and, you know, who to include, because, you know, the district is young, you know, and the organization, I think people have this idea that we are this huge entity that is like been established like eons ago, but we were established in 2017, and then in the recent history, of course, COVID hit, and just like any other organization, we face disparity at like all angles, you know. And I think that as people of color, as people who are Black identified, as people who are TGNC, it's one of those things that the systems in place aren't built for us. So we are so often surrounded by folks in our community that really need to uplift us and do the work to ensure that we can survive this world that is actually, you know, dangerous for us. And I think that's sort of in the cultural consciousness now, we're seeing really within line of trans visibility, you know, volatile reactions against it. And, you know, I think that's when we have to kind of be aligned and know that, like, yes, the life that we live is hard. It's not going to be easy, but we got you. We are your family. We are here together, even if it's brand new, if we have, you know, only less than 4 years in establishment. We're out there showing the world that we exist, that we deserve to be centered, and that we deserve to be seen, and not just seen, but our stories heard. We are so rich in dreaming. We are so rich in ideas and concepts, and we're constantly underestimated. And I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, if you think about like what's happening in like specifically the South, and southern states in the United States with, you know, actions legislatively against trans athletes, and like historically with legislation against bathroom usage, visibility as a tool to start the conversation has been beautiful, but I want to make a call to those who are watching and those who might watch this down the line. Like, we need to continue striving and holding each other up and realizing that the work has just started. As a kid, I love being able to hear about, you know, where people come from, their heritages. I love hearing about how visibility has brought us here and where we're at now with our work. But I want to explore a little bit about community and what that means to you, and like what your community really looks like regarding, I guess, like, how did you get to where you're at, and do you feel supported? Do you feel held, or do you feel like there needs to be more work done? So what does community mean to you?
I think community is so important. I think community is just a pillar of society and just being human. You know, as I mentioned, I didn't really have a community until I was able to move away from home, and I was able to come to San Francisco. I grew up in LA, and I grew up in a suburb in LA, and something that I really dislike about LA, and it's not something that it's just my own opinion. I don't really like how in LA there's no sense of community. Well, at least where I was, there was no sense of community. And something that I really love about the Bay Area is that you look out for your neighbor. You say, "I got you, girl. Like, how are you today? Are you good? I worry about you. I want to make sure you're okay." I really love that. I think that is so special. And I just think that is very unique. I am also someone that believes in leading with kindness. And community helps you attain that. Community helps you attain this feeling of inclusion and of kindness and of being one. And as I mentioned earlier about when I first started transitioning, I was ready to let go of my family and where I came from, all because I wanted to be myself. And I was the reason why I was even thinking about that was because I found myself sort of embraced by a community that was my chosen family, by a community that welcomed me with all my downfalls and with all the things that I hated about myself and all the good things and all of it. I was embraced and I was welcomed. And it wasn't until I sort of left home that I understood how valuable and how precious community was. And you can find community anywhere, just the same way that you can make a home anywhere. It's all about who you surround yourself with. It's all about how you feel. And as trans people, I feel like community is very important because it helps us grasp and understand this concept of being respected and being seen and being loved. I definitely believe that it starts with community. And I definitely believe that community instills self-love and self-respect, not just for ourselves, but for other people. Right now I am very happy and so blessed and so grateful to be surrounded by community like you, like Juniper, and everyone at the Transgender District, and everyone here at the Tenderloin. And I just, I think it's something very special. And I also want someone to really understand, what community is. And if you haven't already, I challenge you to find your community. I challenge you to really go out there and seek the people that welcome you. Because until then, you have not really felt true love by your peers and by your siblings. So that's what community means to me.
Thank you. I think it's just continually more and more beautiful. The more you learn about the people who will uplift you, the more you realize that family is something that you do choose. So thank you for that. And again, I want to open the conversation for Christian if you'd like, or we can also go to the next question.
I know. For me, community is a very similar thing, and I feel like it's really funny because I feel like I've had community and either in a queer adjacent or I've had because when I was growing up I was the little gay kid or whatever, and it was just always Christian's just a little funny. Christian had a little sugar in his tank. But it was always just I was with the girls playing with the Bratz dolls with my cousins, running, running around with my girls. And it was, and like that was my community, you know, like my girl cousins let me sneak they Barbie dolls back to my house, like that, you know, like that was a community. And then it's like I feel like over the years I just like graduated to like more and more community of like, then it was like in college, like I very much had a queer community and like blah blah blah. And when I moved here, like I started to understand my gender expression a little more and like made a trans community. It's just like I feel like it just keeps building out instead of like starting over. It's like I can still like me and my cousins are still close as like thick as thieves. Like me and my college friends are still community with each other even though we're far away. Like it's like I feel like community is so it's beautiful when it grows with you. And it's also like I'll talk to my cousins and they'll be like, oh, like I think I'm like, you know, gonna start expressing myself this way and like this is how I see myself gender wise and da da da. And like my cousin's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like you wanted to put on mama lipstick with me in the bathroom. Like, yeah, you know, I do it like this. This isn't a leap. And it's just like that community just like is always gonna be community no matter how you identify or how your like identity grows and changes and develops. Like true community does like stays on the same page with you, and that to me is like invaluable and is like the invaluable part of community.
Thank you. I love the sentiment that like community grows with you, that it's not something that, you know, that has a stop, and that like I think that's something that's super important to touch on regarding, you know, I think that there's so often that when people choose to choose their truth of like, you know, being who they are, I think there's this idea that there's something that's going to end, that it's over for them. And I think that frequently people are like controlled by that fear of like, you know, if I do this, my life will be over. You know what I mean? But the thing is that it's the idea that it's just beginning, that there is so much opportunity to grow and become something that you never could have imagined that you could be. So I think that's super, super powerful. And I want to like roll back to the conversation about the campaign and how my intention in sort of directing and curating folks and bringing people together that I feel would really mesh well is the fact that I knew that some of y'all knew each other, some of y'all didn't, but I knew that all of you had this aspect of caring for your worlds so deeply that I wanted everyone to be together and, you know, be able to stand next to each other and proudly say that you know your place and it's anywhere you want to be. It's on a billboard in 5th and Harrison on Soma. It is in the BART stations as people traverse to wherever location they're going, that we deserve to exist in public space, in public eye, but also that we're not limited in our, you know, and we should not be limited in our housing, our job opportunities, in who listens to our stories and how we tell our stories. So I wanted to kind of tap in about that and like loop it back to the campaign and to the district regarding housing, workplace, and storytelling. Part of the campaign was, of course, to highlight y'all as beautiful models, as creatives in your field, as up-and-coming entrepreneurs, you name it. But at the same time, I wanted to highlight the district's upcoming initiatives, things that have just been established. One of which, Jupiter, I know that you have been leading our housing program, which is amazing, a housing subsidy program called HOT. And then the other aspect is something that I've been assisting with is the Entrepreneurship Program, which is highlighted on our webpage, talking about, you know, creating opportunity for trans people and gender nonconforming people, gender nonconforming and intersex people to become small business owners or to expand their ideas of what it means to be working as TGNC individuals. And of course, visual storytelling, where we immortalize these stories of folks from the neighborhood and beyond in ways of them being able to tell their stories as a masterclass on thriving and living in your bold truth. So with that in mind, I want to just kind of have an open-ended conversation, maybe a back and forth regarding why do you think it is that, like, what ways do you think trans and gender non-conforming people, like what sort of things do we face in these sectors, and how have you personally pushed forth and gone beyond those things to, be who you are and like make space for yourself, whether it's in your profession, in your housing, or in your story. So yeah, I would love to hear from one or both of you about one of these topics.
Well, as Juniper mentioned, I am leading the Transgender District's housing subsidy program called HOT, which is an abbreviation for Housing Opportunities for Trans Tenants. And this has been a partnership with a local developer called Subsidy. And we've secured wonderful and beautiful and truly amazing and fabulous units all over the Bay Area. And, we are selecting trans people, or we are helping our trans siblings find a home in one of these units. We have some units in Mission Dolores, in North Beach, in downtown Oakland, in Alamo Square. And this housing subsidy program has been sort of brewing in the Transgender District ever since it was established in 2017. And I am so lucky to be leading it. So thank you to Aria and everyone for believing in me. And something that I really love about this housing subsidy program is that it allows trans and gender non-conforming and non-binary intersex individuals to take up space in spaces that traditionally have not been welcoming of trans people. So I am very happy that the Transgender District, how we are working to sort of rewrite the narrative on that, on the aspect of housing. And I definitely, housing has been a hurdle for many members of our trans community, especially in San Francisco, that's gotten incredibly expensive over the last 4 to 5 decades, with sort of the rise of tech of Silicon Valley. But also part of San Francisco that is most often overseen is the rich history, the rich transgender history that is so prevalent within the city limits of San Francisco. People overlook that and neglect that. And San Francisco and the Bay Area has been a home for transgender people for a very long time. And I am so proud that the Transgender District is working to secure this home for members of our TGNC community. And I think it is so important that we retain that, because within these streets and these buildings, and within the 6 blocks that the Transgender District encompasses, there is so much that has happened, so many lives, so many journeys that have been crossed. And I definitely believe that housing is very important. It's a tangible aspect of making sure that we retain our history and our culture. So I'm very excited that we are working on that aspect of one of the many aspects. And I also believe that housing is also attached to the workplace and to storytelling. And I definitely believe that we need to make up space for all those things to flourish and happen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jupiter. And Christian, I actually would love to hear a bit. I know that, alongside being a sickening model for the Transgender District and many others, I note that you are a professional culinary artist and chef, and that you actually just had a feature in Bon Appetit, which is a groundbreaking magazine regarding culinary arts. And I would love to hear a little bit. I actually read your segment on that about your project. I believe you're partnering with someone locally called Sanctuary. Could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the piece in Bon Appetit, they ran a story about how the year 1971 changed the food industry, and it's a really interesting piece that they wrote, and it's like Chez Panisse was something that they were spotlighting as opening up in 1971 and changing the food industry, and they reached out to me to speak on that because I am someone who works there. I guess it's a weird way to say that. But I used to work there, and they just wanted to speak about how that restaurant has changed the face of the industry via what people do after leaving that restaurant. And and honestly, Sanctuary is kind of the epitome for me of doing something to create a safe workspace, because myself and Sarah Kiernan, she is the chef, owner, and operator of Miss Ollie's in Old Oakland at the Swans Market building. And Sanctuary is going to be this umbrella nonprofit that kind of is focusing on Black art and joy and space and love and all of those kinds of things. And Kindred is going to be underneath that umbrella, which is going to be the food program that myself and Sarah are going to be running. And we want to have a space where we can have Black and brown, queer, and trans other cooks maybe coming in, and we spotlight them, or like having venue spaces that are safe spaces for queer and trans people, and eating delicious food, obviously. And that, like, being like programming on one end is like what I'm focusing on, but also like being that I'm going to be operating the food operation within this nonprofit, I'm going to also be curating a work environment. And I'm like, being that this is kind of the biggest thing I've ever had to manage, like I want to be very intentional and like creating a safe space. So like, being that I've worked in the food industry for a long time now, I've been working in kitchens for like between like school and like odd jobs and everything for like almost 8 years. And to be like Black and queer in this industry, like it's interesting, and it's a mixed bag, you know, but it like, and it's also just like, you know, kitchens sometimes can be like locker rooms, and you know how that turns out. But I think I've always just been very like, I'm gonna be loud and I'm gonna take up space, and like I'm not gonna like. It took me a while to get to that place professionally, because I was like 19 in New York City, like working in like kitchens, and I was like, but over the years I was like, you know what, like I don't have to shrink myself to be here. Like, I came here to cut up onions and grill chicken breasts. Like, why am I trying to like make sure I don't stand with a dip in my hip while I'm cutting it? You know, why am I trying to like silence my mannerisms and like be like kind of just like be in this space and like kind of conform to it? Like, why am I doing that? Like, I'm gonna, you know, tack on a girl at the end of the sentence when I'm talking to this like macho dude, like, girl, pass me that pan over there. Like, you know, like it's like, and I want to curate that space of like, we are here and we are making delicious food and we're gonna have fun and we're gonna be safe. And like, I want it to be like honestly, if I could staff this entire operation with like a bunch of the girls, like it's like, yeah, like let's kiki and like bake some chicken. Like, I don't know. But that is the mark I'm leaving on this workspace. Like, I want it to be a place where people can come in and just like be authentic to themselves and like do like, and not have to like be drained from their job, you know, like not have to like feel unsafe in their job and like feel like they can be themselves in their job. It's like professionalism and code switching is dead. Like I don't think and also honestly like I went into this like I don't want to sit behind a desk all day. Like I can't. Like I don't want to talk to people and say, well, that was great. Like you have that report. Like I don't want to do that. And like I think a kitchen is already a place of pandemonium. So it's like, but for it to be Black pandemonium, like it's like like to like be able to not have to suppress or silence or diminish your Blackness, your queerness, your just like your self and your identity at work is like what we're trying to do, so that that also then translates to our customers, and like they see Black people joyously making them food and they're going to like joyously consume it, and like that transfer of energy and that transfer of love and like all of that is kind of what we're focusing on and wanting to be intentional and and get to in a lack of better words. I don't know. I just trail off when I'm done talking.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for that. Like, I have been so curious about what you've been working on, and trust I've been spying because your work is so phenomenal, and there is intentionality in like, you know, wanting to highlight specifically folks who holds, you know, that sort of ideology of wanting to uplift the community, and hearing everything that you talked about with Kindred at Sanctuary. So happy to highlight that, and that you were able to speak about your dream. But yes, thank you, Christian. And I want to be mindful. We're at 12:46. I want to take the next, I guess, moment to allow for any closing comments from both of you. And then I wanted to quickly also show the website via screen share for folks to explore via this chat. So as a way to encourage them to go visit the website. So going ahead, I would love to open up the table for any final comments from you two. And go ahead.
I don't know. I just am so grateful and so happy to be part of this campaign, and like the work that y'all are doing is so amazing. And I think that this is just going to help so many people. I think, and I think this is going to be like this, and this is probably going to like this campaign, the work that y'all are doing with the Transgender District, like this could be the difference between life and death for people. And like, I think that is so amazing. Like, I am so happy to be a part of it. And I am so proud of you, Juniper, for all the work that you are doing. This is just another like instance of like, we got us, and and it's like, and that's just it. You know, like, we got us. We're gonna be community. We're gonna protect community, like we've always had to do. And this is just bringing that protection to like another level. Like, this is now like city ordained protection. Like, that's amazing. You know, like, beautiful. I love it.
Thank you so much. And I will now allow Jupiter, if you'd like, any final comment.
I just wanna say thank you. Thank you to everyone at the Transgender District. Thank you to Juniper for curating and art directing such an amazing public awareness campaign. It looks incredibly beautiful. Thank you to our photographer, Karen Santos, for executing such a stunning concept. And I would also like to say the same as Christian mentioned. We are rewriting the narrative on trans people. And I do really believe that, we are doing the work to make sure that we are restructuring the way trans people are perceived. And it starts, it doesn't necessarily start because it's already started, but this public awareness is yet another step towards getting there. And I also want to say that I feel incredibly grateful to be surrounded by so many amazing beauties in this public awareness campaign. And I really love how we were able to be vulnerable, we were able to be honest, and we were able to be ourselves. This public awareness campaign really helped me realize that we as trans people, we are powerful, and we are beautiful, and we are really capable of doing anything and everything. And I am so excited to see what the future brings for our transgender community. And I am so excited to be living in a world where the Transgender District exists, because we are really paving the way for so many more that are really going to change this world. So thank you. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to be sharing a billboard with the incredible Christian and all the other wonderful models like Eli and Destiny and Ivory and Aroma, and that's it, right? Yeah.
And you.
And me. But thank you so much. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you go to knowourplace.com, which Juniper is going to do a little screen share of the amazing website. So please do so. And also check out all the wonderful things that the Transgender District is doing.
Yes, thank you. Ooh, there's a little feedback there. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I also want to just highlight, none of this would have been possible without our ancestors in our community uplifting us and being able to have these conversations, being able to exist in space without fear, fighting back against systems of oppression, against individuals who have hate in their hearts. So, and then on top of that, within the district, I want to give a special thanks to our founders, who were 3 Black trans women back in 2017 that responded to the widespread gentrification of San Francisco, and all worked together to establish the district historically and contemporarily to exist into perpetuity. So thank you so much to Janetta Johnson, to Hani Mahogany, and to, of course, Arya Saeed. Without your striving, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't have these beautiful faces up on these billboards, up on these ads, up on, in public space. And I really am just so grateful in the deepest parts of my heart, of course, for everyone that had their hands in this campaign and allowed this to exist. So without further ado, I'm going to do a quick screen share. A quick little show of what the website's going to be looking like when you go and check it out. And thank you again. So y'all are going to stay on camera for a second, and then I will do screen share via Chrome tab. All right. So as you can see, these are our sickening models.
Yes.
So when you enter www.knowourplace.com, this is what you see. We have several different images of our models. All of them look sickening. And then information on the campaign. Each model has a subpage that you can explore each model's story, contact them via email so that if they want to be booked, or if you're curious more about their work, you can reach out to them. And then, of course, information about our initiatives. So let's scroll down. And then I want to invite folks to go ahead and check out the BTS video, the behind the scenes video. It is beautiful. So thank you so much, everyone. And I want to go ahead and call it a wrap. Thanks everyone that came to watch, and we hope that you all can visit the billboard. It's going to be up for the next 3 weeks until April 14th, I believe, on 5th and Harrison and Soma, and then keep your eyes peeled for more street banners And if you're in the BART system at all, we're at Powell Street Station and Civic Center Station in San Francisco. So thank you, and y'all have a lovely Monday.